Welcome to a very special Humana Pharmacy Town Hall. Today we have the distinct honor of speaking with Senator John McCain. He was our 2008 Republican National Presidential candidate.
You did not have to mention that.
He started serving the people in 1982 at the House of Representatives. Is currently seeking his 6th term as senator, and I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you for that elaborate introduction. Once Henry Kissinger was being introduced, and the guy said, "Here's a man who needs no introduction," and Kissinger said, "Yes, but he enjoys it." I'm happy to see all of you, and thanks again for. After I lost running for president, I slept like a baby. Sleep 2 hours, wake up and cry. We're in interesting times, and I am grateful for the opportunity to be here, but more importantly, I am grateful for all you do for Arizona and all of our citizens. I am extremely proud of Humana. I'm proud of the work you do, and I've just received an excellent briefing. I would mention that Doug Stoss over there, some of you may know Doug, he is a head of federal government affairs, and he was once an intern in my office. And he was on a work release program at the time. And we're really glad that he's turned out so well, especially now that he's back from Betty Ford's. Anyway, I'm really happy to see. Usually I talk about a lot of things, but I want to talk to you one thing that was just opioids, okay? It's a disease, and it's spreading, and and I know that you all are making every effort to try to bring this scourge into check. We have, in Washington, we don't do a lot, but we just did pass legislation that will help, I think, reduce the abuse that, as you know, is going on, particularly with many in our older population. I thank you for all your efforts there. It is a very, very serious issue in America, and one I'm happy to tell you that we addressed in a bipartisan fashion. And let me tell you another spin-off of this. As we crack down on the use of that prescription drug, and people are deprived of it, guess what? They are turning to heroin. They're turning to manufactured heroin that is coming from Mexico. We have seen the deaths of drug overdoses of manufactured heroin go way up, particularly in the Middle East and, the Midwest and the Northeast. Guess where the distribution point is for a lot of this manufactured Mexican heroin? Phoenix, Arizona. I received a briefing just the other day. A lot of that stuff comes across our southern border, then comes here and is distributed around the country. And it's serious, and a lot of the people that are dying from these overdoses are older men who have had to switch from Oxycodone or one of those and have switched to this very dangerous drug. And it's an argument, obviously, for securing our border better, cracking down, doing everything we can. But it also, in my view, is an education problem. We are not doing enough to inform Americans about how dangerous these drugs are. There was once a wonderful First Lady named Nancy Reagan that inaugurated a program called Just Say No to Drugs. Some of you may remember that, and it helped. It helped. So I'm glad that Humana is working on it with the benefit of the new legislation that we have, but have no doubt about how serious it is. Certain governors in the Northeast have said it's an epidemic, so I thank you for your hard work there. Thank you for all of the great things you are doing. I want to thank you for the effort of Medicare Advantage, despite the damage that it was done to Medicare Advantage by Obamacare. I think that, by the way, I've got to tell you that a lot of you think that I'm not very tech savvy. You may think that. I understand why you might think that, especially since I started out during the Coolidge administration. But I'd like to tell you how proud I am that about a couple of years ago, I was given the award by the Washington Post of one of the top 10 tweets of the last 7 years. Now that looks pretty unlikely, obviously. Here's how it happened. When we passed Obamacare, and I was one of those that led the fight against it, when we passed Obamacare, there were many provisions in that bill, and I'm sure that none of you know many of the provisions of that bill except where it directly affects you, but one of the provisions of the bill was an increase, in order to pay for Obamacare, was an increase in taxes on tanning beds. And so that offended some people, obviously, who are patrons of tanning bed facilities. One of them that was most offended is one of the great actresses of our time, who obviously is a patron of tanning beds, a person by the name of Snooki. If you are fans of Snooki, you know that she probably is a patron. Well, she tweeted, I'm so mad at Obama for raising taxes on tanning beds. Senator McCain would never do that because he's so pale. So I tweeted back, you're right, Snooki, I would never raise taxes on tanning beds. P.S. Be sure to wear sunscreen. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about health care, if I could, and then a couple of other issues, and then I'd like to respond to any questions or comments that you might have. Thank you for coming this morning. Thank you for having me. First of all, I believe that prescription drugs, and we were just having a conversation about it, and the rising cost of it is one of our major challenges. And I know that a lot of efforts are being made, including mail order delivery, including a lot of other efforts that are being made. But I think that one of the things we have to do is reduce the exclusivity time for patents. I think we don't want to eliminate it, but it ought to. The generic drugs are obviously one of the major alternatives, and the more and more rapidly we can get those onto the market, then the better off I think Americans are going to be. We need to get, I believe that we should be able to go to Canada if we want to and get prescription drugs there, but that's not the answer. The answer is what happens here in the United States of America. But when we look at the inflation rate, which the last couple of years is about 1.5, something like that, and then the inflation rate of the cost of prescription drugs, it at some point, it already is at this point where some are just prohibitively expensive for people to be able to afford. We don't want that to happen in America, because then that discriminates between wealthy Americans and lower income Americans, and that's not what America is supposed to be all about. So I know that Humana is working, and a lot of other organizations are, to try to bring these costs down. But when you read, and I know life is anecdotal, but when you read that someone just for treatment is going to have to pay thousands of dollars, obviously they're not going to be able to do it. They just, and which brings me to Obamacare, my favorite. So I think it's important for us to recognize its failures. According to Health and Human Services, health insurers still participating in Arizona's Obamacare market plan steeply raised premiums to cover the rising costs and increased losses under the law. In Arizona, premiums are skyrocketing. As you know, Aetna is now requesting an average increase of 86%. Health Net of Arizona has jumped 48%. Phoenix Health's request has skyrocketed to 123%. Blue Cross Blue Shield says with a request an average weighted increase of 51%. It means that hardworking Arizonans could soon face monthly health care bills down into hundreds of dollars per month. Arizona has the highest proposed premium increases for 2017 in the entire country. My friends, that was not the promise of Obamacare. That was not the promise of Obamacare, that you would be paying thousands of dollars just to obtain health care, particularly co-pays that go up into the thousands, as you know. You know that United Health Group announced it would exit all but a handful of Obamacare established health insurance exchanges in 2017. Comes after United Health lost $475 million out of Obamacare exchanges, projected to $650 million. This will leave 45,000 Arizonans to find new coverage. The list goes on and on. Remember when they were selling Obamacare? If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Remember that? Remember, if you like your health insurance policy and you want to keep your policy, you want to. The promise of Obamacare has been an abject failure. And the reason is, and I think you all know as well or better than I do, it was based on a concept which is unworkable. And that is, take money from younger, healthier Americans and give it to older Americans. That doesn't work. That's not the answer, and that's the reason why it has been the failure that it is. So, so what do we need to do? One, I think if individuals don't want to be part of Obamacare, then let's make sure that that they don't have to. I think there's a number of other things that someone's to opt out, they can. We need to suspend the mandate when people can't afford the premiums. In other words, we ought to give Americans a much larger choice than they have today. So we'll continue to wrestle with this issue, and it's not going away as long as you see healthcare costs continue to skyrocket and insurance costs skyrocket and more providers opting out of the market. And I congratulate Humana on doing the work that they do all over the state of Arizona. I congratulate you on some of the innovations that you have installed in outreach to people who are part of your program. The information capabilities and services you've provided. I think you can be proud of what you're doing. You know that we in Arizona have a larger percentage of older Americans. That's why Medicare Advantage is such an important program, and I'm very happy and proud that you are providing that, playing such a big role. Finally, I'd like to, and I'll get off healthcare here in a second, but our veterans, I congratulate you on your work on TRICARE. And you know that this scandal about veterans health care started right here, unfortunately, here in Phoenix, Arizona. 50 veterans died while awaiting on a non-existent waiting list. And that, of course, is disgraceful and scandalous. So we passed some legislation which I think is helpful, but we've got a lot more to do. One of the things that I was able to get done I was negotiating with Bernie Sanders, who was then the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee. There's an interest in negotiating with the only announced socialist in the United States Senate. My reward will be in heaven, not here. Is this choice card. I want every veteran, just like every veteran, every citizen who has a Medicare choice card or Medicare card to go out to the provider of his and her choice. The VA does great work on traumatic brain injury, on prosthesis, on PTSD, but for a normal health care need, our veterans should be able to go out to the provider of their choice, in my view. The VA has resisted that all along. Wonderful people work at the VA, but the VA is still broken, I'm sorry to tell you. A good example is they just wasted $2.7 billion to build a hospital in Denver, which is not completed yet. Think of how many veterans we could treat for that $2.7 billion that they just wasted. And finally, I just wanted to talk about one other issue that I know that concerns all of us, and that's the rate of veteran suicide. 8,000 veterans a year are committing suicide. That's not acceptable, obviously. There is certain commonalities with a lot of these suicides, and one of them is homelessness, and the other is joblessness. I'm proud of the city of Phoenix. We have now no homeless people in Phoenix because they built facilities for them. We have I know here at Humana too, we have incentives to hire veterans as well, and I'm very proud of the work that you're doing. But we also have to understand that this problem is going to be with us, and we need early detection and we need early treatment. Because if it goes to a certain degree, then there's obviously a point where that veteran has chosen a path which most of us don't understand, but unfortunately is the case. So, and finally, every time you see a veteran or one of these young men in uniform, just go over and say thanks for serving. That means a lot to them. And I'm proud of the way that Arizona honors our veterans. I'm proud of Luke Air Force Base and Davis Mountain, Marine Corps Station Yuma, and all of the, not only the military facilities, but we make, right over in Mesa, we make the best helicopter ever on Earth. There isn't a country in the world that doesn't want an Apache helicopter. We also, down at Raytheon, we make the best missiles. And I'm glad that Raytheon is expanding their production and hiring down there as well. So we're a pro-military state, my friends. You can go all the way back to World War II, when after the war broke out and they built a thing called the Army Air Corps, and we literally trained a couple of 100,000 airmen and crew members during that period of time. Luke Air Force Base was built, Yuma, and all of that began a long time ago. And it was one of the reasons why Arizona grew so rapidly after World War II, because so many people had trained here in Arizona, they wanted to come back here and live and work. So I'm very proud of our military and the facilities like Boeing and Raytheon and others. Finally, if there's anyone here who can predict this election, please raise your hand, because Usher is held up. And I know that we're going to make America great again. It's going to be huge. That's all I know. It's important for you to be engaged in this election, and I'd like to say to you that we have a stagnant economy, unfortunately. The middle class, as we know them, is shrinking. We are seeing blue-collar workers who are older Americans that are seeing their jobs disappear and never come back. For example, in the automotive industry. I've been to automotive factories, and years ago you would see people all over these automobiles as they're being put together on the assembly line. I went not too long ago, and you sit there and then people stand there and watch robots put them together. And many of those blue-collar workers are looking at a very bleak future because they don't have the training and background. There's 19 million Americans that stopped looking for work. And we've had a very stagnant economy since 2008. So I think this election, every politician comes to you and says, hey, this is the most important election in history. I think you can make an argument that this is a very, very, very important election. I hope everybody will register to vote. And in the words of the late Mayor Daley of Chicago, who said, vote early and vote often. But I would never say that, of course. You know, in Chicago, they honor the dead so much, they let them vote. By the way, my favorite joke is the two inmates in the chow line in the state prison, and one of them turned to the other and said, the food was a lot better in here when you were governor. Can't tell that joke in Illinois. So thank you for coming. Thank you for what you are doing is helping people. You're not only helping people, but you are providing them. You're literally saving their lives. And it's also, by the way, about 20% of our gross national product. So I'm honored to be here with you because of the great work that you do on behalf of the people that I represent. So I'd like to end up with that and say thank you very much. I'd like to respond to any questions or comments or insults that you might have. Thank you for coming today. You just raise your hand. Yeah.
So Senator, thank you for being here, and thanks for your service to the state and to the country. It's very impressive, your career. All of us in the room...
By the way, it doesn't take a lot of talent to get shot down. I'm one of those...
We appreciate that.
Number of landings don't match the number of takeoffs.
All of us in the room are in pharmacy. Some of us in the room are in just healthcare more broadly. And so I appreciate your comments around the affordability of medications. As I look at the last several years, there's been incredible science with Hep C and other cancer treatments. the near future. There's a lot of new treatments coming at us with some potential science around Alzheimer's and other disease. Big challenge to your point is we can't afford everything that's coming at us. You laid out some very interesting thoughts about how to deal with some of that. As you look at this entire group here, you think about some of the things you got to see in the pre-meeting and some of the walk-arounds. What advice you would give this group around things we could do to help your cause and help make healthcare more affordable for the U.S.?
Well, first of all, one of the areas we've talked about is the link with the patent protection that a drug has, and we don't want to prevent people from, or companies or corporations or institutions from being deprived of the benefits of the investment they have made. But I do think it's too long. I think it should be shortened. We all know that generics are have a tremendous effect on the cost of drugs. I'd like to also point out to you that historians 100 years from now will look back on one event as the most important event, evolution in healthcare, and that's the mapping of the human genome. As you know, that has made possible research and capabilities to cure diseases that we never had a clue about. And the mapping of the human genome was such incredible breakthrough. And I believe that it's going to lead over time to cures for literally almost everything we are afflicted with. And of course, and I do not make light of it, I'm not joking, but as all people live longer, we know that Alzheimer's is a disease that is so terrible. All of us who have had loved ones who have been afflicted by this terrible disease. And there is progress being made. There's been progress, dramatic progress on melanoma. I'm a melanoma person who had an operation on a melanoma. And yet, and by the way, whenever you see a small child out in the sun in Arizona without sunscreen on, go over and chew out the mother or father. I can't tell you how many votes I have lost. Because where I've been told to mind my own business. So I think that we're in an era of finding cures to diseases that we never would have contemplated. But at the same time, that has got to be affordable. It has to be. If we charge so much for a cure, then we're doing a terrible thing in America. We're dividing America up between rich and poor. So we're going to let the rich, the wealthiest in America, be able to have their disease addressed, but not the poorest. So I think it's the cost of prescription drugs is an issue that we all need to look at. And facts are stubborn things. The fact is that the inflation associated with prescription drugs is dramatically higher than inflation in this country. But we should also not do anything that's going to kill this incredible progress that we have made. And by the way, almost all of that progress in finding cures is here in the United States of America. We don't want to kill the goose that's laying the golden eggs. But at the same time, we've got to make it affordable. And I would argue that that's one of the biggest challenges for Humana and other healthcare providers, that your mission should be to make quality healthcare, especially prescription drugs, available to all Americans. Any other question or comment? All right, yes.
I'm going to echo Mr. Fleming's welcome to our facility. Thank you for coming. As a veteran myself, and I think about my retirement and my future, do you think that the scandals at the VA will push any of those plans into a privatization mode or private healthcare plans?
I believe the only answer, the only real answer is this choice card. That if a veteran wants to receive his or her care at the VA, that's fine. But if that veteran wants to go out to a healthcare provider, then that veterans should be able to do so. And there's all kinds of obstacles that have been put in the way of that, some of them legitimate, some of them not. For example, electronic health records. How are you going to match that up with a healthcare provider and the VA, et cetera? But I can tell you the VA has resisted that every step of the way. And there's one other problem, accountability. You know that I think as a result of that scandal, I think 3 people were, quote, suspended. No one was ever held accountable for these scandalous deaths of brave Americans who earned VA care and were on a non-existent waiting list. So there's not enough accountability there as well. So we've got a lot of work to do. And I want to again say, what I know that you know, most of the men and women who are doing the day-to-day work at the VA are dedicated, fine, wonderful people. It's the system that's wrong in the VA, not the individuals. So, by the way, if you have a friend who is a veteran and is not getting what they deserve and have earned, send them to our office. We have 5 staff people whose only job is handling veterans issues. And we handle as many as 1,000 cases at any one time because we take cases from all over America. The day that those cases go down and veterans don't have to come to us as the last resort, then I will know that healthcare has improved at the VA. So, thank you. Well, listen, can we do one more if there is?
Sure, but before we do, I just would like to ask everyone who is a veteran or a spouse of a veteran to please stand so the senator can see.
Thank you very much. I really would appreciate to make sure that you vote. I think it's very important, as I said. So I might mention to you in politics that it's very wrong in politics to tell an ethnic joke. The only ethnic joke that you can tell in politics is an Irish joke. I don't know why that's wrong. You can't tell an Italian joke, you can't tell a Polish joke, you can't tell anything but an Irish joke. But it's okay to tell an Irish joke, so here it is, okay? There's a bar in Boston, one guy down at either end of the bar's empty, the guy gets up, walks down, sits down next to the guy, and says, hey, he says, where are you from? He says, I'm from Ireland. He says, really? He says, I'm from Ireland too. He says, great. He says, let me buy you a drink. He says, oh, let me buy you a drink. We're buying each other drinks back and forth. The guy says, where are you from in Ireland? He says, I'm from Galway. He says, really? He says, I'm from Galway. I'm kidding, really? Buying each other drinks back and forth. That's great news. He said, where'd you go to high school? He said, I went to St. Mary's. He couldn't have gone to St. Mary's. I went to St. Mary's. Really? Buy each other drinks, and louder and louder. A guy walks into the bar and sees all the commotion down at the end of the bar and says, the bartender, he said, what's going on down there? He says, it's just the O'Reilly twins getting drunk again.
We really appreciate it. It was an honor having you here. Thank you to the crowd for all your great questions and everything, but thank you for all your thoughts, and please come back again sometime.
Thanks, Bob.